Hello and thanks for joining us again for part 3 of looking at the exposure triangle. And in this last and final part, we're going to be looking at ISO. Our digital cameras have image sensors inside them, and it's that image sensor's job to convert the light that comes in into an image. Our ISO measures the sensitivity of the image sensor, and depending on the lighting that's available when we take our image depends on how sensitive we might want to make our image sensor. Generally, in a low light situation, we want to make our image sensor more sensitive to light, so we would increase our ISO. On a bright summer's day where there's a lot of light in abundance, we probably want to make our image sensors less sensitive to light by using a lower setting, so an ISO 100 or 200 would be appropriate. And whether if we're out shooting in low light, we probably want to use an ISO of 800 or above. Now, there are a few things you should know about ISO. If we increase our image sensitivity on our image sensors, when there is a lot of light present, there is a very good chance that our image will come out overexposed. That means really washed out with light. So if it's a bright sunny day when we should be shooting on an ISO 100 and we shoot on an ISO 800, 1600, our image is generally going to be overexposed, and we probably won't be able to use that. But you can be creative. If you want to adjust your pictures and you want it to come out slightly overexposed, you can play around with where you set your ISO settings on your camera. Now, in a low light situation, generally we want to increase our ISO, but doing so can add grain, also known as noise, to our image, which means that when we're looking at it, it looks like there's dust speckles all on the picture. Now, this also may be a desired effect. You might be trying to, you might want that deliberately in your image, but if you want to capture an image that is clean and in a low light situation, you want to really make your ISO, you really want to reduce the sensitivity of your ISO and probably want to consider shooting on ISO 200 or 100. Therefore, to control the kind of exposure you want, you're going to have to be looking at your aperture and your shutter speed settings. So, to sum things up, creating the correct exposure is going to be a compromise between your shutter speed, your aperture and your ISO. But there are a few things in that compromise you're going to have to bear in mind if you want to create the kind of exposure that you want. If you change your aperture, this not only controls the amount of light that gets in to the camera, but it also controls the depth of field that you have. Yeah. Remember that thing about depth of field, how much of your image is in focus. Yeah. If we change our shutter speed, then that will affect how motion is captured in our picture, depending on the length of time our image sensor is exposed to light. Also, if we adjust our ISO, that can add grain to our photos or take grain away from our photos. So when we're thinking about exposure, we really need to keep those things in mind. But my top tip for creating the kind of exposure you want is to take your time and keep experimenting. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep shooting. Bye.